Hey guys, Sullivan Owen here in Philadelphia. So I am starting a new series that will be, well, as long as it takes to show you everything that we are doing. But we have begun the major renovations on our half-acre property in the city of Philadelphia. So we are in Zone 7A. It is the first week of March. We have had 1 day of tree work completed. We are working with our local arboretum for our tree service, Awbury Arboretum, which is just down the road from us here in Mount Airy. We were able to be fit into like a 1 day gap in their schedule, and then they're coming back, but they did leave us at a good stopping place. Although I am not one for perfection. I really like things in their a bit of wild, overgrown state, but it looks like an army of giants like walked around our yard and kicked things over and then ate the trees. So it's pretty wild. I honestly thought Tim, my husband, would be freaking out a bit more, but it's really me that's like, oh God, we have to put this back together as soon as humanly possible. But so we'll have 1 more day, probably 1 more day, maybe 2, because we are pruning the trees, doing some prune work on the trees that are staying, in addition to all the ones that we're removing. So I'll just kind of walk you through, and then I have lots of drone and time-lapse footage of the removal process so far. All right, so let's take a walk around Complete and Total Devastation, Part 1. So we get a lot of questions about our paint color. It is Faro and Ball in the color Railings. We are planning to do all the wood trim. We just have to have a little woodwork done. Walking down in front of the, what I call Tim's Meadow, which I grew a lot of plants from seed to add in here, but we're going to focus on the trees. We are saving this beautiful maple. It does need to have some canopy work and some dead wood trimmed out, but it's a beautiful tree and I'm really happy that it can stay. The biggest change is that there was a huge white paper birch right where that big pile of mulch is. And it was at one time it was quite lovely, but you can see we have a lot of ivy growing over the hideous chain link fence, and the tree just wasn't thriving. It really wasn't zoned for this area, and every tree guy we've met was like shocked that it was still here. So in the last 2 years, once I started gardening over here, I noticed that it was dropping a lot of lightweight branches. It shed its leaves quite regularly, and it just did not look healthy. I didn't get too far into it, but I will be using the structure of the maple once the limbs are shaped up to kind of help create like a little bit of an air of mystery, as kind of bringing this path in a little bit, tightening things up, doing a shade bed under the maple because the roots are all exposed and we kind of need to build that up, burying my irrigation lines, and sort of making this like an interesting and pretty kind of wander through path to draw you in. On down the fence was, maybe it was like a pin oak. I would have to look at the paperwork to remember what this tree was, but you can see just how unattractive it is in the drone footage. It was really reaching and spilling out over the street. It has dropped some rather large and terrifying sized limbs that we have had to pay quite a bit of money to have cleaned up. So ultimately, it was never a tree that we were very excited to keep because it was such a unattractive shape after all the pruning. So I'm quite glad that's gone. So it opened up this huge corner. They couldn't grind down the stump completely, so we started taking down the fence so that they can get the stump grinder in here. These two trees were weed trees, so I don't know what they were, but they were volunteers or whatever you want to call them. They were just growing really precariously on the slope of the yard, and close to the street, reaching for sun, just not what we want. We do plan to plant trees along here, but they are going to have to be more upright specimens, and probably not going for anything with the closeness of the power lines, probably nothing over 25 feet tall at maturity. And then last up, I would have to look at the paperwork for what this was. This was, it had potential as a tree, and maybe 8 years ago when we started talking to tree guys, they were like, oh, you could save it, but its central leader suffered some damage in like really severe storms that we had a few years ago. Again, it was dropping scary limbs, including some inside the yard, and then for our neighbors that on the other side of the street, few have driveways, so they park on the street, and we like our neighbors enough that we don't want our trees to smash their cars. So as much as the squirrels will miss this tree, it's gone. It was so massive. It just was wild to watch it come down as fast as it did. Alright guys, well, thank you for watching Garden Devastation Part 1, Garden Renovation Part 1, Garden Destruction Part 1. I don't know, we'll have to come up with a name for the series. So thank you guys for watching. If you want to see what happens next, I'm not sure this is going to be like a once a week series. I'm just going to kind of make the videos and put them out as they come. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Besides having lots and lots of trees removed, I do lots of flower and gardening stuff on the regular. So subscribe if you love all things flora. Hit the like button if you like this video. Please know we did not destroy and take down all these trees for fun. It's too much money to be just like cavalierly ripping down gigantic trees. They were in decline and they were becoming hazardous to the neighbors and to our neighbor's property. So stay tuned. There's going to be one more tree removal cleanup video, and then hopefully we'll be getting into grading and getting ready for the new fence. So thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.